Alright guys, we're going to do a little 2-in-1 combo video today. So I literally just picked this up not a half hour ago. And I got all this stuff for 30 bucks. I thought it was a pretty good deal. So we have a 92 Briggs 5 horsepower Model 13. It's aluminum bore. I did take the heads off camera just to inspect everything a little bit. This one's a cast iron sleeve. This is an aluminum bore. This is the gas tank for it. And it still looks brand new inside. It's completely brand new, like it's never even been used. Which it probably had a performance carburetor on it as well, because there's another one of these Tilson carburetors, just like that one. Also came with a 8 horsepower updraft, 8 horsepower one-piece flow jet, and the pipe it would go on there, so that's just extra stuff to have. Here's the breather, air filter for this one. No carburetor, but we can get that carburetor really cheap. If I don't have one, it's good. 3 extra heads, Model 25 Model 13s. These are what I would call 5-bolt heads, usually referred to as 3 bolts because of the 3 here. But these have bolts over here. And so does the one that's on here. It's also a 3-bolt with the 2 extra bolts over there. Then this is like for a Model 9 or 8, more than likely. Just a miscellaneous gasket for one of those. This is where it gets interesting here. This is a fully built racing go-kart engine. You see, he said it was from the 80s when they had this fixed up. So this is some old school modifications to soup it up. You see, it's got a straight pipe. This thing will be super loud. And this has a smaller, like a 3.5 horsepower flywheel with the adapter plate to adapt it down to adapt the coil down. This also allows you to adjust the timing. So right now it's set at 20 degrees before top dead center. You can see it's offset slightly from where it normally would be. They apparently used a drill or some type of starter on it to get it started. This motor is really stiff. I hope there's not a problem, but the cylinder looked pretty good. And the piston is stamped 060. So apparently this has been bored out to 60 thousandths, which I didn't even think was possible for one of these. Because I didn't think the cylinder sleeves were thick enough for that. It's also got a chain guard and a clutch. I don't know if it's any good or not. 35 chain it looks like. So this is going to be a very interesting engine to get running. And it was probably one to go-kart or mini bike like this without a flywheel cover to get more air when you're driving. So we'll probably be putting a starter clutch and flywheel shroud on it before we run it. And we might adjust that timing back to stock just a little bit for a test run. I don't want to feel like getting my arm broke. But this one, the only known issue of it, which appears to be a low IRS engine, because you can still see home marks in the engine. And I didn't pay attention to see if it was bored out or not because I didn't look at the piston. But it's missing the intake valve, so I don't know what that was about. Let's take this off and see if there's anything broke or missing in here, just so we know. I can't take this off yet. The spring's still in there, and the keepers, that's a plus. We'd have to throw another valve in it and lap it in. Also, the valve seats on this one were staked, so apparently they might have had to replace valve seats or had an issue with them falling out or something. I was expecting it to have a thin head gasket, but it has a regular gasket in it. It does have a small fire slot cut into the cylinder head. It wasn't very big like the one I did on the mini bike. It was just kind of more or less just a little notch right here, but anything helps. It was a Model 13 5 horsepower head and not a 10 horsepower head like some people would put on these to boost the compression up. The flywheel appears to be a little loose, and like I said, this motor is really stiff for some reason. And it appears to have a little bit of rod play, just going by the sound and feel of that. Could be wrong. So before either one of these are run, I want to take the side covers off just to kind of look around and see what's going on in there and see if they got like a billet rod or what's going on, if they're just factory rods. I didn't think this one would have been taken apart, but you can see the paint's missing off the screws, so it was probably taken apart. But other than the carburetor and muffler, everything's here for it. Like I said, this is a 92, so this is a newer one. This is unknown, but it's older than 82 because it would have had points originally. Alright, so we're going to take the head off and the sump cover here, because I just want to look at everything. We got to take the head back off to fix that valve. Doesn't appear to be any oil in already checked, so should be good on that. So we'll get you on time lapse here just to keep from boring you too much. Alright, so you got the sump off, and the first thing we notice is a ball bearing on the PTO side. It is not on the flywheel side. And what I can tell, it looks like a factory cam. I don't see the usual, like I call it like a slant grind. You can almost see how it's like shaped, but it looks like a factory cam. So I'm not surprised by that. Was surprised by this. This was just laying inside here. This is the part that comes in contact with the governor weights. So that was just a disaster waiting to happen. So I was glad I seen that before I tried to run it. As far as the cylinder goes, besides the dirt and everything, the rod appears to be solid. You can still see some hone marks in the cylinder. I don't know what this scratching is here at the top. Unless it was somebody trying to get the ridge off the top. But it seemed like a pretty good engine overall. So let me check out a couple other things and we'll throw it back together and fix this valve issue. I'll do that off camera because just putting the valve back in, reseating it, and cleaning everything up a little bit. Alright, so we get the whole bottom end back together. This seal is shot, but I don't have one to put in it at the moment. So there might be a little bit of oil come out of there. Got another intake valve in here. Reseated the other valve because it didn't have no clearance at all. Still getting a little bit of dirt off the rings. It's got motor oil sitting there, so I might wipe that down and soak it down one more time before I put it together. Got a slight problem with this head that was on it. You can see right here. I can't tell if it was a crack or a problem with the casting or something that happened to it afterwards. But we're going to put it on there for right now because we're just kind of testing this engine. I figure the new head gasket it should seal, but we got other heads to put on too. I mean, this one honestly might be the one off of it since it's got a number wrote on it. So I might clean this one up and put it on there. Looks like it's in better shape, so we might just do that. Okay, it's all back together. Found out this is not the original tank because the bracket does not line up. So this is probably off of like a 5 horse, probably off like a 3.5 horsepower. But the carburetor is the same. It bolted up. Had to put a new diaphragm in that carburetor. A little crunchy. And it's not the original carburetor. It didn't come with one. Original air filter and assembly. This might as well be. It matches it. But I can always make a bracket extension on that to support the bottom of the tank. I already put oil in it. Got good compression as far as I can tell. I put my favorite type of muffler on it. Now I've got it mounted on the stand, it'll be ready to go. So I'm getting ready to put gas in. I figured I'd show you what I had to do to rig it up enough to get it going. I had to do something I don't like doing, as you can see. Put a weed eater fuel filter and line on there because I don't have the right pickup tube for that carburetor I had. So it's enough to test it and get it going, but it's not a permanent setup. Yeah, guys, don't run too bad. Still having a slight carburetor issue. This carburetor is not adjustable, and it's kind of messing with it. I don't want to idle. I'll probably adjust the idle speed up a little bit, and it'll probably idle fine. Other than that, it seems like it runs good and just a little bit of smoke. So I was going to make a time lapse of tearing this one apart, and I completely forgot until I got all the bolts out, and thought I'd start making a video. It does appear that there was Loctite on all these bolts. You can see they're all red on the inside, but they came right out with the impact driver. So let's go ahead and take the side cover off and see what's happening in this one. Also note the clutch and everything was just barely snug whenever it came right off. I always take these caps off because I've broke too many before. So I'm trying to keep from doing that. And we got another ball bearing crank. Okay, so I'm having a little trouble getting the camshaft out. I'll keep working with that here in a minute, but I'm going to have to make an index mark on the crankshaft because this may be an aftermarket crankshaft. I can't really tell. Definitely an aftermarket rod. I've never seen one made like this. Super heavy duty. Almost looks like the type for the Blockzilla engines. But that's a very beefy connecting rod. Definitely a first for me. It's got the built-in dipper on it. The bearing for the PTO side. It does have a bearing in the back. The flywheel side. So this is one of the better blocks. This may have actually... No, it's an IC block because it still has the governor arm in it. So it's not a Raptor block or aftermarket block. It's definitely just an old school Briggs build. I want to show you this piston too. The cylinder's got some light scratches, but it's nothing you can really feel. The motor's stiff though. So to get some oil in them rings. If you see it right here, it's 060. I'm assuming it's that, not 090, because it looks more like a 6 to me. So that means it's definitely a non-stock block. Look how much overlaps on there. So it's not the original cam either. Look how high that valve's coming up. This has also had some valve work done to it. You see the valve seats have been staked, and this has been grinded down smooth so to get a little bit better flow out of it. So it's definitely a built engine. You can see it's been ran hard before. You see when the carbon looks like that on an engine, so possibly might have ran alcohol in it. Very possible. I want to change the timing back to factory timing before I try to run it because I don't want to rip my arm off. So the cam does not want to come out for some reason. I mean, it's obviously in the position where it will. It came out just a little bit, but it stops. I don't want to keep fighting with it, so I'm not too worried about it. I did mark it just so I can line it back up in case I did get it to come loose. Get ready to throw it back together. Really impressed by this connecting rod. If anybody knows exactly what rod this is, please let me know. Let me know if that 15 means anything on that camshaft. Can't really tell much by looking at it. You can kind of see just a little bit there. Looks like a factory camshaft just being regrinded if it is a aftermarket, but it looked like it had pretty high lift compared to a stock engine, a lot more overlap. So factory timing just for the initial starting because I don't want to rip my arm off. So I got it set just about at 15 degrees before top dead center. It'll go about 10, I think it is the maximum for this way, and this way it goes all the way up to 35. So I can't find these plates anywhere to do this with, so eventually I might take this off and see if I can get some of these made or try to make some myself because it's kind of neat, I think. So I was planning on just putting a screw-in muffler on it, but I'm not going to be able to do that because they polished the threads down. Now, I had to see what the valve springs look like. They look like a pretty beefy spring, so pretty much everything's been upgraded on it. So it's going to affect the performance, obviously, putting a factory and carburetor or muffler on it, but it's just something just for testing, you know, see what kind of shape the engine's in. That's pretty much the only way to do it. So, okay, so we got the box type muffler on it, and I tried to put a regular bolt in it, and the threads were chewed up on the first part of the block. So the only thing I had was a 4-inch tack bolt, so I ran it in, snugged it up, and put a double nut on it, and this one went in good, so shouldn't go nowhere. And we got a standard carbon tank for testing. So this motor's got super compression, so it's going to be interesting trying to get it to start. Well guys, it looks like it's going to be a good engine. I just wanted to do a test on it just to make sure the engine's in good shape, and smoked it first because there was the oil burning out of the cylinder that I poured in there, but it seemed like a very solid engine. No noises or nothing from it except a little, sound like an exhaust leak, or it could just be from the valves. Probably has a little more clearance than a stock engine, so definitely no rod knock or piston slap or nothing like that. So